Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Finance Management for SMEs and the Role of Bank webinar. So today we have Conrad Dias, the Director CEO of LOLC Finance, and Chana De Silva, CEO and the General Manager of Lanka Clear. Then we have Jeevan Jnanam, the co-founder of Hatch Sri Lanka, and also Sharanyan Sharma, the founder and the managing director of Extreme SEO International Solutions from Wani, joining us. So good evening to all of you guys, and let's basically start with a bit of an overview of what we're trying to talk today. So everybody is affected because of the COVID-19 situation. Businesses are down. The new normal has arrived, and a lot of people trying to work from home and do remote delivery and provide services, right? So some of the startups are affected. Some have seen a new business opportunities coming up with the online trade and basically trying to serve the market. So let's have a discussion with our panelists to see how the banking sector, the financial sector, as well as the technology providers supporting these startups and new business ventures, and also to see what is the requirement from the startups looking at and expecting from banks and finance companies. To start the conversation, we'll first go into a question. So what I'll do is I'll first pose a question. So we'll give everybody about probably 3 to 4 minutes to give you a summarized version of this, right? So the question is, what will be the future of SMEs and new businesses, right, in the post of COVID-19, and where the businesses has been challenged? So what are your thoughts? So I think we'll start with Conrad.
Okay, I think that's a tough one. I think what is the future is something that which is, I think, it's anybody's guess at this given moment. Of course, it's a challenging time, but I think there are, even for SMEs, I think there will be opportunities for them in the future, as long as you know where do you want to play and what kind of pivoting, I call it the pivoting of your business that you will do in terms of, in face of the what you started with, the new normal that which we are going to face. Because I think whether it's an SME or whether it's a large corporate, I think the SME, I would say that it's much more easier compared to the large corporates or large organizations like ours to change in terms of, I think, what is going to be the new normal. I think we all expect as human beings, we are expecting the normalcy to come back. I think last Sunday, I can remember that we all worked and thought that, okay, from Wednesday onwards, everything will be okay and we'll come back to the normalcy, which we expected, that is, as businesses. I think we have only planned for that normalcy only as a large corporate or for an SME. But I think we, the SMEs have to look at, or any other business today have to look at, how do you plan for the unknown, which we have only known for about 1 month now, in a lockdown situation, which is an extreme situation, and there will be some kind of relief will come into operations. And how do you plan our businesses? How do you pivot our businesses to face that? Some would call it digital, but even digital, there are some businesses that we need to look at it in terms of that normalcy, because I don't think, because we don't have to plan for the old normal, which we have been used to for almost about, couple of 100 years, I think, right? So I think it's the challenge is how do you plan and how do you think? So as an organizations, as SMEs, as the companies who are small and medium to large, I think need to look at it. How do we pivot our business? How do you face the new normal?
So one of the things that I picked up from Conrad, yes, the large organizations is in a bit of a critical situation than the small organizations, because small organizations can pivot. So large organizations will have that challenge. So Jeevan, how do we see from a startup point of view? So you have invested on quite a lot of startups. So what do you think the future is going to be post COVID-19?
Okay. Yeah, thanks for asking that. I think the first point that we kind of taken it as an assumption, but I don't think many have made that assumption yet, right? The new normal. And I think that's a very important assumption that we're all going to make from here on in about how business is going to be conducted. And looking across organizations that I run, and I do run some traditional businesses as well, I can see that the traditional businesses are still like, this is crazy. This uncertainty is crazy. And I think that's where the startups and I'm seeing, the younger companies really win at, because they know that for certainty, this is going to be the new way to do things, right? Digital is the way to be. And I think that's really, it's just a fundamental shift in that thinking that I see from traditional business to what a startup is. And I think we have to get the traditional businesses to think like startups. So there's opportunity for startups to help traditional business think like them and think about that digital way forward. But I also think that there's going to be a whole lot of wins for startups that are focusing on, on tech stuff, on fintech, thinking of way like you, for example, Kanishka, looking at digital, digital cash. We have Sharanya here looking at, helping businesses focus on their online sales model, right? So I think all of this kind of helps traditional businesses look at the way forward. And then you have, businesses that are thinking, how do we digitally disrupt as well, like fintechs, traditional banking, and stuff like that, the traditional businesses who will be the winners going forward. Also, there are lots of opportunities, right? I think you can look at one of the ways that traditional businesses are looking at their supply chain. They're still looking at, we have distributors and dealers, and how are we going to get our product to the end thing? Is there a way to disrupt the traditional model? Really, I think can be thought about, just giving a few ideas, right? So looking at supply chains, looking at a way to get the product to your customer, a way to get that service to your customer, can all now be thought about on the digital platform. I think it's a great opportunity, really. If there's this, I mentioned this yesterday, we just launched the FinTech Accelerator. I think there's a silver lining here. And the winners are going to be the next gen of companies looking at this with certainty and looking at the mindset of this is an opportunity.
Right. So it's a new opportunity. People can look at new businesses. They can rethink of new models. Channa, what do you think? How could we support, or how can the payment industry basically get a cutting edge out of this?
Yeah, while on one side it's a humanitarian disaster, as all of us know, the suffering that people are going through. But on the other side, I think I agree with that. It's created a massive opportunity to go digital. Because if you really look at the large organizations, I don't want to name names, but all of you know, when the first week when you try to go and order stuff from the large retail chains, nothing worked. The people who are talking, we are digital, we are number one, digital, nothing worked, right? So obviously, one thing is they may not have anticipated this, but obviously they have not anticipated what digital is. So in that sense, I think this is doing more good to move people into digital than anything else, because obviously when you don't give a choice, this becomes the only choice. So I think that is what has happened, where people don't have a choice. I think even in Colombo, for a foreseeable future, the choice is going to be taken away. The rate things are going. So in that sense, I think the only way is digital. As you know, in India, the way India drove the digital revolution is they took the cash away, right?
Yeah.
So, but in straight, I mean, right now with COVID, they have taken the business of it. It's very simple, right? So you have no choice, right? If you want business, you have to be digital. I mean, there's no other except the physical delivery of goods and services. Everything else has to be digital. I mean, people who were not even looking at signing documents electronically now come running because they can't actually initiate a payment with their bank because they can't send the check and the banks are not open. They are only open 2 hours a day or whatever the number of hours, right? So it has created a desperate situation for people to go digital. I mean, there is no other choice for them. The choice is like when you can't even think about Colombo, Gampaha and Kaludara, but other areas, if the curfew is lifted, the first thing that they is go and buy food, right? But what about banking? What about finance? What about all these things are, they have no choice. So I think that sense, it has created a massive opportunity for the startups because some of the services the big guys can't do. I mean, I know Conrad was modest enough. If you take somebody like Conrad with iPay, right? I mean, it's created a massive opportunity. I think, Kanishka, even for you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, people have no choice right now. I mean, large businesses have very limited choice. For example, I mean, on the payment side, card business is there. But zillions of the small timers who are delivering, they have no POS machines.
Yeah.
The option for payments. And people can't go to an ATM to withdraw cash. So how do you do the transaction? And so cards doesn't work because there's no POS, right? So only way is digital. I think in that sense, this is the best and the only opportunity. Like, for example, if you take the next 3 months, I think that's where we make it or break it. And I think we are on the right path. And this is the time to jump on the bandwagon and just run like hell. We created the massive market space, and which is digital, and provide digital services. And also you consume digital, I mean, payments are a byproduct of the services, right? And there are enough channels to use payments. I mean, it's not there. I mean, digital ways of doing that, just that people were not using. I mean, they are used to cash. And now, obviously, the fear of cash can also spread, the virus because of the physical distribution, cash goes through many people. So it has really created even a much more bigger impact than, India doing cash taking out. It has actually created a massive opportunity. I think this is the time. I mean, we are already 1 month into it, and people have already started doing this. And I think it's the opportunity of a lifetime for startups. And I think, whoever who has brilliant ideas, bring them on. Because right now, people will jump on it. So this is the time, I think, for everybody to get on board.
Right. Okay. Thanks, Channa. Sharanyan, from startup SME point of view, right? How do you see the situation, especially North and East, looking at that sector and the whole country? Do we see opportunities for startups? Can startups basically, as Channa said, that there is a lot of opportunities has come and we should jump and go. Can we do that? Do we have enough strength? Do we have enough financials? Is the capacity enough to do this? What is your thoughts?
Thanks for asking, Kanishka. So in my perspective, not all the startups are backed by VCs and angels. So, and most of the startups are surviving based on their incomes from the customers as well as reinvesting from the founders' allocations. So that's how the startup ecosystem running in North and East. I'm not sure whether the same ecosystem is in Colombo and all other regions, but especially in North and East, this is how the startup ecosystem works. And of course, we have a diverse business models. But however, this is a vulnerable situation for all the startups, not only the corporates and the largest enterprises. All the startups are in a vulnerable situation. But I do have a different opinion. The entrepreneurship mindset and the lifestyle are absolutely different from the corporate lifestyle. So it's all about the mindset that we have to build it. Instead of thinking like a desperate and it's a frustrated situation, that we have to motivate ourselves, because this is the time nobody is going to motivate us. So only the colleagues, only the people who are around us. Still, it's not only the social distance from the online world, but also they have their own agendas and they have their own things to focus. Now, this is the time that we have to recalibrate our strength, and also we need to refocus our business models and the finance and all this structure. We have to restructure it again. Why? Because this is the time that we don't have an option to go out. As you know, Saranyan, I don't sit in my office. I used to travel often, but I feel like earlier the first week, it's like a prisoner life. But now I'm really comfort because I feel like I regained my life, which I had in my 2012, because I'm not just like a 2-hour sleep and also focusing on the productivity. It's not about me. I'm talking on behalf of the entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs, they need a motivation. They have the energy, they have the knowledge. The only thing that they need a motivation, like Jeevan said. And coming back to the topic, apart from the finance and all this stuff, and the government also massively supporting and giving a grace period for the loans and all the installments and all the things. The government is supporting, but still, the companies, especially companies who are who are focused on the local business, are still suffering. But the company who already position themselves to global market, yes, that's completely fine, because they are simply deploying their employees to the working from home and deploying all the facilities for them. Yes, it works well. But like I said before, the companies who focus on the local regions still suffering. And apart from that, and the lifeline. So there's no lifeline like a corporate. So when you go and talk with banks, the way that they talked earlier, but they're not able to support for us. But we don't want to complain about it, because this is the situation. This is a common situation for everyone. So if you look at the startup entrepreneurs, it doesn't matter how rich you are, what kind of background do you have, but most of the startup entrepreneurs, what they do, they reinvest again and again and again. This is how their life normally used to go. But in that scenario, when you talk with the banks and the companies who can support to us, they also having the same restriction, also facing the same similar issues. But in my opinion, this is a common impact, not only for startups and also the corporates. But why can't we think as a paradigm shift? Why can't we think like this is a different opportunity where we can reposition the product and market in a way that we can stabilize in future? Because we have no idea when it's going to get resolved. So we can just simply predict it, but there's no deadline for that. So I feel like all the entrepreneurs, we need to focus on how we can improvise the quality and how we can negotiate with the customers and how we can balance the employees as well as the company structure during this situation. In North and East, through our federation, we had a survey, and according to the companies and the founders, most of them, they are working remotely, and also there are a few companies, they have suspended their employees for a temporarily, they have suspended, and also they need a salary cut as well. But I feel like now they are back on track, and still need to focus on the business model.
Right. Okay. So with this Corona whole incident, there was some new companies who were born out of this. So if you look at in Bandara, there was a portal came up called Sahasa, which basically provides support for all the regional shops, not limited to only the region, but also the entire country, to open up online stores. Then, so that was done by Kalinga. And then there was a new online platform created by Lasantha from Kandy called VShop, which provides again most of the SMEs with the delivery platform. Then Pay Here, Danica also started something called Shop Here, which also provides support, right? So these are new businesses which has emerged out of the COVID-19 situation. So how do investors, so this is mainly for Jeevan and Conrad. I know Conrad is behind PickMe, right? And Jeevan has many investments. So how do you guys look at basically investing on new businesses which is coming out of COVID-19 situation? The new pivots, the new channels, or more the digital channels which are coming up. Do you see that it's going to be the future, or do you think that it's going to be a short-term win and then it will be back to normal?
Conrad, do you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll do that. I think just to add on what Saranya said, I think it's very important that I think this is what we all call pivoting from where you are and how fast you can pivot. So as a startup, easily you can pivot yourself, right? So I think some of the new startups have come, but at the same time, if you look at PickMe also, PickMe, if I just talk about PickMe slightly, PickMe is another completely affected business from they were from a lockdown status where we went down to 0 hires, right? So when a country is locked down, but they themselves pivoted with using that same technology to come into the picture and do the delivery platform, which they were doing only food, but to deliver other things. So a lot of technology and a lot of leadership, a lot of mindset changes was required to do that, and fast action was required. So I think that kind of a background entrepreneurs are there. Definitely, I think that I'm sure that any investor will look at them very positively and to go forward with the further investment, or even a new startups if there are that they have that kind of a mindset of pivoting themselves or changing themselves, or attuning themselves to suit the business operation. I think PickMe has done it for the second time. If you look at it, some time back when we had the flood situation, I think at that time also they went ahead with a similar kind of an approach, right? So this is the second time. So that's a capability that you have to build in any organization, even in a large organization for that matter, right? I think very, very important that they have that pivoting capability. Over to you, Jivan.
Yeah, I think it is important for a startup to have the pivoting capability, right? With one nuance, like for example, we had Eat Me that was trying to do dish discovery through their platform, and then they pivoted to this to get cash flow. And I think number one thing, obviously, during these times, cash flow is important, right? And if you see a business that has positive cash flow, I think then they become a lot more investable, and there's some traction by which they're building. But how I would choose the real winners is, I think those that can really use COVID to go global, right? And I don't see that a lot in Sri Lanka, to be very honest. I see all of them saying, hey, how do I make a better mousetrap in Sri Lanka within the market I know? But guys, COVID is a huge opportunity to look past Sri Lanka, right? And I think to look at least in your mind, look at South Asia, right? And I think that should be something that all the startups should be doing, and have that mindset of how do we address problems that are specifically maybe South Asian and developing world, and then how do I take that out into, like, during this COVID crisis, and how do I take that out into the rest of South Asia? And I think that's really, as an investor, I want to see that you're talking about global marketplace. I know it's a bit difficult to actually do it in global marketplace, but at least if you're talking about it now and saying, okay, I have a plan, I have a friend who might be able to get us this into this, and be able to take me into that global marketplace, and not just in Colombo or Jaffna or wherever it is, and is thinking globally and big. I think that is an important point that I want to make, that investors are looking for in what you're doing. Yes, pivoting, cash flow, but also I think a strong ability to go global would be with me at one point.
So both of you, so in this situation, will you still keep on investing in such opportunities, or is the investment ceased from investor point of view, or you wanted to take a break and see how it's going to settle, and then?
Okay, I'll take that. So I think so. All of a sudden, there were 15, last mile delivery apps, right, coming on board, right? I would sit and wait and be like, okay, I'm not so sure which one of those are going to be winners in the next few months of last mile delivery, for example. But that being said, I would look at something else where it's less crowded, maybe, and say, okay, that's an interesting space that maybe someone else hasn't thought about, and then has an opportunity to go global. And then I would look at those opportunities, and I would be willing to invest even at this point in time to then take that forward.
Okay, Conrad, I want to give you a different direction on this. From an investor point of view, if you look at an institutional investor, would that be an opportunity that as an investing institute that you will be looking at this stage?
I didn't quite get as an institute.
So the previous question was basically if there are new businesses which has pivoted in this situation and which has born out of this situation, as an institute, would you be looking at investing on those kind of businesses?
No, certainly, I think we will, because if you really look at it, even in the global sense, like I think we are not only investing in Sri Lanka, as you know, that we have some certain other investments in overseas as well, right? So the startup ecosystem, if you really look at it, when you're investing, you have to be very, very, I think you need to know where you want to invest and why you want to invest in those startups. Right, so it's not just because it's a startup or a fancy idea that we should do. So how we, from our perspective, we will look at it, how much of value creation that it can happen. One, to as a group, whether there is any value creation, and two, in terms of how they can scale it to a certain level. So I think even globally, we here, and in fact, some of our partners wants to invest with us in some other startups that which we already have eyed upon in terms of in other countries, even in countries like Indonesia and various other countries. But as Jeevan said, I think there are certain things that which we need to look at, wait and see. As you see in this current context, I think he touched on cash is the king at this given moment. In the sense, like the organizations, even banks for that matter, need to manage their cash more than the profitability, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it's very important, because we don't know, because the profitability, as you know, that it can be achieved in various ways. But if you know the liquidity position of a company, or the liquidity is the most important thing in terms of today's context, how much of liquidity that you can manage to even to pivot yourself to a certain extent, right? So that's the key. So we will look at, of course, managing our liquidity, and then probably looking at how we can invest on selected startups if it comes through.
Right.
Yeah, just to add to that, we are actively and looking at cockroaches now. So earlier everyone was looking at unicorns. The VC space has completely shifted to cockroaches. Basically, companies like yourself, Kanishka, that are basically self-bootstrapped, understand bottom line, and now with a bit of tailwind, we'll go to the next level, right? Yeah. So that's what we see and investors do.
Right. Channa, this question might not be directly on the payments, but I want to bring you also into your with the view the bank's role in supporting especially SMEs and startups, right? We all know that the central bank has released a circular about how that the bank should basically look at supporting. There was a deadline given, 30th of April, to be the day to apply. Before that, you had to apply. But most of the startups has now got stuck in asking for collaterals, right? Even I myself went through same experience. We got the release, but it was based on our collaterals which was there. So there are a lot of startups, SMEs, who doesn't have collaterals. How should the banks actually support SMEs and startups?
Yeah, I think from a regulatory perspective, okay, if you leave the banks for a side for the moment, this is the best time to get something done, right? Because obviously the government wants to support the SME sector. I mean, because obviously that we have realized that is the most vulnerable, as well as the country's economy is heavily dependent on the SME sector for many things. So when the SME sector, if the SME sector goes down, the economy is going to go down. So because of that, I think the government is taking very proactive measures in terms of loan repayment delays, the tax payment to be delayed, and so many benefits are coming. Right? So on the other hand, that same stance is taken by the regulator as well. So for example, normally, as all of you know, some of the guys in the fintech industry, to get an approval from central bank, how long it takes, right? But having said that, for us, we wanted to increase the Just Pay limit from 10,000 to 25,000 in the morning. By 3 p.m., we got the approval and we have activated it. Same day from Central Bank. Getting the request, put in the document via email for approval, getting the approval and implementation. And online onboarding merchants digitally or onboarding customers digitally, digital onboarding was activated by the regulator. So that, I mean, right now it's on a limited time frame as of now, but obviously that probably might get extended to June. So I think from a regulatory perspective, this is the best time to get something done, right? But from a bank side, I think they have also been fairly accommodative in terms of, going that extra mile. So, in a sense that if I'm audible, right?
Yes.
In a sense that, so what we have also seen is the compliance requirements to so many other stringent requirements have gone away. Now I'll give you a simple example. When the fund transfers are done, especially not the real time, the checks and the slips, which is the bulk payments. Normally, what happens is the bank will only give the credit to the customers once the settlement is done, which is subsequent, which is the following day or after the cycle. But Central Bank requested, because some of the cycles had to be delayed because of COVID, before the bank got the settlement to give credit, and they extended. So, for example, you deposited a check, you got the credit, but actually the bank has still not got the credit from the other bank. So banks went to that level. So I think that we would have never had this happening if not for COVID. So in that sense, I think they are supportive. So I think if you are a genuine business and if you have a genuine case and if you genuinely approach them, I think they would look at it from a different perspective. They have done, over the last month or so, and they will continue to do that, because obviously for them, if the whole economy collapses, banks are not going to be sustainable as well. So they want the businesses to be sustainable. Unlike previously, they had enough business, they have enough bottom line, they have enough cash flow coming in, they have enough float. Right now, everything is a struggle. So the last straw for them is the business is going down. Because if the business is going down, naturally the banks, will also go down with that. So I think as an industry from a financial sector, I think we will definitely be supportive. And I think this is the best time to approach them with a good business case, good requirement, good proposal. Because I think they are very prone to be supportive right now than any time in the past. So hopefully, I'm not hoping for COVID to continue, but hopefully this trend will continue, because I think people are beginning to realize the benefits of that.
Right. So then the question is, Channa, so Central Bank is ready and they are positive. Lanka Clear as a technology partner, they are ready. Are the banks acting? Right. The point is here, it's not the technology part or the fund transfer part. It is basically approving a loan or a financial facility for a startup, right? Because now startup has been a bit of the definition itself is a bit of vague. They don't know whether this business will continue. This is a temporary arrangement where it will want to test the waters and see. And if you lend, we have no way of recovering. So those kind of myths are there. So on that point, how would banks, or rather other banks, geared up?
Yeah, and if I can add to that, I think it's nice to say that, they will help out and stuff like that, but we're seeing on the ground a lot of startups being rejected without collateral, a lot of startups, if they don't have an existing account, not being accommodated. And so the end reality is the bank loan officer, when he looks at the, his NPL kind of his non-performing loan ratios, is seeing a lot of credit risk with startups. when he shouldn't be. And actually, some of these businesses should be probably better than probably traditional businesses. So I think, you know, it's easy to say that when maybe that like you're part of a bank or something, but I don't think that's the ground situation happening for a lot of startups right now at this moment.
I like to add something. I think I'm the only person from the banking, and I've taken over a banking and financial services company from last month to run as a CEO. So, well, I think we are a different company in terms of, if you really look at it from LOSE perspective, if you look at, we are the highest lender in terms of microfinancing and the more riskier segment, right? Which we have almost about 500,000 customers who are not having any collateral, right? I mean, that we are doing it, but we can't do it for the guys who are in the startup ecosystem. But this is a very small amount. We are helping the bottom of the pyramid, right? So, of course, it's a high-risk business. As you know, with the current situation, what we have done, what we have given with the COVID relief, we have to give them moratoriums. So that's a huge responsibility from a bank perspective. So in order to, if you really look at it from a bank's perspective also, I don't blame the bank for not doing it, but it's a risk appetite of the bank. Each bank has their own risk appetite. I think globally it's the case. That's why there are different funds which are available for investing in startups. Of course, there are certain banks which they are doing in terms of the investments in certain related, I would say related startups. But because the bank's responsibility, if you really look at it, banks or a finance company's responsibility is not only to the shareholders, but bulk of it is to their deposit holders as well. So they need to manage that risk to be fair by them. But I think fairly, I see the current COVID relief. I think every bank, I have seen them advertising and giving them, asking them to apply, and even we have done so many messages to our customers to give it, not because of anything else, it's because of it's important that we sustain the business and sustain the whole businesses of our economy, and to do that. But I think if you really look at it, giving loans to startups, I think it's depending on the risk appetite. So I can talk about it because we have given so much of loans non-collateralized. Even I think we have a huge book in terms of non-collateralized, and that is what our business is all about in terms of especially in the micro segment of our country, but not in the higher segment of our country in terms of giving tens of millions of rupees on non-collateralized loan. We are not in that market. We're in a different market. So I think there may be some other banks who are focusing on that.
Sharan, what's your take on this? Because you been in the startups, you grown a couple of startups, and you have quite a lot of engagement. So what's the startup entrepreneurs or people who are the founders of all these startups, what's their take and what's their view?
Okay. So nowadays, all the startup entrepreneurs are looking for relief. Of course, that is really essential, as Conrad said. And also, we need to have a synergy to blend with our the backup. Which means when we are getting something like if you are raising a funds or if you are getting a loan from the bank, of course, we need to have the same ability to earn it back. So if you are getting a relief or a loan, but we don't have a energy, we don't have a right team in a place, if you are not able to generate the revenue, even we are going to be in NPL. So which means we are not able to pay back or we are not able to sustain it. So for a certain period, of course, with the loan and the grant that we are getting, of course, we can manage it, but not to sustain for a longer period. My suggestion, the same way that we are focusing on getting relief funds or grants, the same energy that we have to put it in order to improve our knowledge and skill. So because nowadays aiming global and also global also having the same crisis. So going global, it's essential. That's very important. But the global also focusing on different regions. So all the European and the American companies, still they are cutting off the offshore companies. So we have 85% of our customers are US and Europe. So now what they're doing, they're canceling the projects They are temporary canceling and permanently canceling. So what we are trying to do, we are trying to negotiate with them, like offering a grace period, offering a 2 months or 1 month free service for them in order to avoid the cancellation. But even though, still they are canceling it. And my strategy, my idea, my suggestion for you guys, especially when it comes to entrepreneurs, the way that we are thinking about getting investment, getting money to our business, the same way that we need to focus on improving the skill, knowledge, as well as getting sales getting money online on board. So which means we generate revenue, the cash flow, the same way that we need to improve the staff quality, the employees, the mindset and the quality, because that will affect the productivity. Because people think like it's a disparate situation. But if you're not going to motivate, if you're not going to balance the employees, the productivity will get drained. So which means eventually the customers will cancel the projects. So I strongly believe not only the quality, and also we need to focus on improving the staff and also managing their mindset as well. So they also having the same mindset. And if we lose our confidence, they are going to lose it. So my suggestion, same, the way that we are focusing on the funds, and also we need to calibrate the employees' mindset. And you know, the Facebook and all the largest companies still now helping the small business. Hope you heard about the $100 million worth of cash grants is provided by Facebook, especially for the 30 countries which is Facebook is running. And also they have offered 30,000 credit for the small businesses. So likewise, the private companies, private sectors need to tie up with the startup as well. Not only to providing the monitoring, even the government is providing to other countries the same thing, that if they can provide the service for the startup, that would be really great. And apart from that, the remote job is growing. So we think we can let our staffs to work with others as well for a temporary period, having a separate agreement. So where they can balance their revenues as well. And we need to have a kind of understanding with the people, because unlike corporate, startup lifestyle culture is absolutely different. It's like a people driven, not like a customer driven. So, I mean, thinking in the way that we are empowering the staff, employees, they will take care of the customers. So that's all from my end.
Sure. Right. Jeevan, what is the ground reality? Are the banks helping? Are they screwing us? Or is there a hope?
Yeah, the ground reality is banks do not care for startups. I mean, that is the end truth, right? You know, across 60 startups that I know, about 30 of them applied, only maybe 2 have got approval without asking for some sort of collateral. Hatch has applied, and basically they came and asked, you know, can we have a director's guarantee? So at the end of the day, the bank does not really care, and I'm sad to say this. I mean, I know it sounds great on paper, the relief, and I'm just talking about the working capital loan given to startups. But I think a lot of work has to go to get the banks to understand this, you know, this thing. And I think, you know, I'm Conrad is not in this place, but like to Channa, if you can do a better job of going to banks and saying, hey, release this, I would really appreciate that. You know, being part owned by a bank, I think that would be important for you to go tell them if the startups don't do well, the entire kind of ecosystem doesn't do well, and the entire country doesn't do well.
I think the way forward is, right, obviously, I mean, we can come in to help, but I think the way forward, Jeevan and others, is that I think we need to get together as a community and go. For example, we would need to get the support of the ICT agency. We need to get the support of like-minded people in the government sector and create that pressure. I mean, that is how it actually all happened, because not an individual or not a single organization would be able to do that. So I think if we can create that, you know, that push from multiple aspects, then obviously I think also if we can get the government or some stronghold to provide some sort of a guarantee or some sort of a, you know, support behind, you know, that they would come in if something goes wrong. For example, you know, if you can get hold of a state bank, for example, you know, and you know, I think that we right now probably is the way to get together and, you know, come up with some sort of a plan collectively to say, okay, hey, there's a need, there's a requirement, and this is the opportunity. we need the support of all the stakeholders to come together and support this, because if we can do that, then we, once this mess is over, I think we are in a better footing for growth. From a country perspective, because obviously, I see a lot of potential in the startups, but obviously, they can't get to the next level. That is where the collateral is required, right? So I think
I just want to say that we are doing this, right? So me and Kanishka are on a steer code that basically looks at what the startups need. We're putting this in a document. We're working with KPMG. We're working with different partners, Slascom, etc., to put this document together and then lobby government. It'd be great if we can get some help from you as well. So yeah, thanks for that.
Yeah, I think that right now is the best thing, because the government, at least the better part of the government is pro-IT or pro-technology. So which is, I think we probably have the best opportunity right now to push something like that through.
Chandra, to continue with that, there's a question from the audience. So now the knowledge of digital banking and using payment instruments like apps and other things, if you look at the SME sector, it's very poor, right? So what are the measures which has been taken in basically on the microfinance sector to give the awareness of these all the digital payments, digital banking and digital initiatives? Maybe Conrad also can support on that. We'll start from Chan.
Yeah, actually, I think that is one of the reasons, together with Central Bank, we started this journey called Digital 2020, right? Actually, this was prior to this COVID issue. Actually, started from January of this year. There was a big plan for initially getting the banks aligned and then get the merchants and customers on board, creating that, when I say merchants, it's SMEs, right? Yeah. On board digital, right? So that plan is there because of logistical issues and other things, it's getting delayed. But we have actually continued. Now, for example, we have a partnership with the IFC as an organization, we have a partnership. So we are actually creating a lot of, digital content awareness. Now, for example, together with Central Bank, we advertise, we sent a SMS to all the, everybody in the country, giving a number. Call that number, provide that information if you want to get signed up. So what we basically do is we collect that when we pass on to all the fintechs out there, get these guys signed up as merchants, because if you just call your bank, they don't know who to call, whom to call, what to call, the number they call, the guy doesn't know anything, right? So because of that, we have actually come forward to provide that as a service. I mean, we are struggling with manpower, but I think we are still trying to do within this. So in that sense, plus we are creating a lot of digital content now. Even now we are actually starting, planning a campaign with different people who are looking for delivery services, and one of their primary problem is cash collection, payment collection. Because when you go, either you have to get cash, you have to get exact change. People don't have cash, and a lot of people don't have cards, POS terminals to make payments. So there is a lot of educational and creating awareness. And also the awareness of what are the benefits they would get by going digital. I mean, if we leave the customers aside, that's a different segment. But from a SME sector, they don't even know what are the benefits. Now, for example, some of these, Conrad can vouch for some of these things. Some of these actually, if they sign up as a merchant, they even offer loan facilities. And there are so many other benefits that they can bring in by coming on board as a digital merchant, for example. So actually, that is something that we are trying to create. So we are creating a lot of digital, like even some YouTube content we're trying to create to be sent to, among. So the main problem is some of these guys are too busy to read, so that is again, their day-to-day, struggling to provide that service. But I think we have to take that effort to go that extra mile to get this. So that as an organization, I think we are doing that and we will continue to do that. But I think from a banking sector, that's what we are promoting. Now, for example, one of the things that we have actually a WhatsApp group among bank CEOs. So I'm also part of that, plus Central Bank is there. So now the decisions are made via WhatsApp group right now. All the decisions are made via this WhatsApp group among the banking sector, right? So which is a very, very, very progressive way of doing that. But in addition, right now, for example, one of the things that we started, obviously, we would like, the mobile ATM service, right? So now, I mean, this was primarily initiated via this WhatsApp group. Right? Because right now, so then we came in, we said, okay, people don't know where you are going today. So we will actually take that onus. We will get that thing out to the market saying, hey, this mobile ATM is coming this way. So that type of, I mean, getting that information on time is a bit of an issue. So we only publish it that day morning. So we are trying to make it the previous day. But the thing is, some of these things people have to take their ownership and do. So banks are doing to some extent. But I think overall, we and central bank are trying to actually, push this as much as possible and also get this awareness created and also get them educated. I think right now is I think they are in a good frame of mind to do this, provided we can show them the benefit. So I think whether it's sufficient, it may not be, but I think at least we are putting that effort to do.
So Conrad, yeah. So the question again, if I rephrase it a little bit,
I saw that question. I saw it, Kanishka. I saw it online. Yeah. So I think they were talking about microfinancing. So I think I don't know if you really look at us now today. We are totally having a online session. I think we are. I don't think that if the things were open, we would have done this. Either we would have not had it, or we would have done it in a place where that we are limited to a certain number of people only, that who can travel, who can come. I think this has now opened the opportunity for various people to be online and listen to us, and probably the transmission of this is the much more better or bigger audience than it would have been if we had it in a listening. So similarly, I think if you really look at it during the past few weeks or during this period, I think we saw a lot of adoption in terms of technology. And previous to my role now, I was the CIO for the group, right? So I think there are so many technology things that which we have been implemented, but the adoption was a huge question mark, leave alone the digital payments. But if you really look at it like the online platform to have a meeting, and we had everything, but we were in the physical comfort zone of getting them down from Anuradhapura branch to the Kandy branch to Jaffna branch to Colombo to have a meeting and send them off, whether it's quarterly or whatever, if required, because we were in the physical comfort. But I think that comfort has gone away. So this is probably the tipping point for even for micro segment to get in. Because why I say that is now, I think we have had a lot of educational session, and we are trying to onboard our customers themselves. As Channa correctly said, that, looking at not as a payment platform, but digitally connecting them so that we can not only give them they can pay, but they can also get a loan, right? So that's the future which we need to look at from banking sector perspective. I think we need to change our business model. Definitely from an LOC, we are doing that, and that's the future. So that's something that we are doing it now. I think we are onboarding our customers. I think we have given a target. I think we are working with another group of companies called Sadaharita Group. Right? They are onboarded with us in terms of our payment platform. So they are onboarding their customers, and they're looking at how do you upsell, cross-sell, and all that to their customers, not only just getting the payment ecosystem. So I think it's probably the tipping point for Sri Lanka also, because I see differently in terms of other countries. When we are operating, and we have the same payment platform running in Cambodia, the Cambodia uptake is much more higher compared to Sri Lanka in terms, because that younger generation, the population, and they are digitally savvy compared to the Sri Lankan adoption. Even though Sri Lankans have the larger number of smartphones, but the adoption was a question mark. Probably this is the tipping point.
Right. Okay.
And that I think all of us were waiting for. All of y'all in terms of the digital business lines, I think all of us were waiting for.
Yeah. So there is another question I picked up from the audience. Now this moratorium and the situation where the banks will arrange certain finances, and most of people will go on bad credit. How would that be reflected on CRIB? So probably Channa can probably give us a little bit of insight during this period, whether all the defaults that people are going to make, will it affect their CRIB reports?
Yeah, actually, I think the sector is aware, right? For example, one of the positive things that
Chana, just to add, I think the CRIB is discussing this as I got to know, because we are also waiting until a circular comes from the CRIB in terms of how it should be reflected. In my view, I don't think that this period is what is given as a 6 months moratorium. I don't think that part of it can be shown as a bad part, right? So previously, if they have been in the CRIB, I don't think that will get corrected. That I think we need to understand. But the period from March, April period, I think it will be not reflected in a bad, because they don't have to pay anything. So there is nothing falling due in reality. So I think that has been just discussed. I don't know whether it has been final outcome has come out to the market yet. I don't know. I of course can't comment, but if Chanda knows anything.
But yeah, I mean, I think the bottom line is, Conrad and others, is that I think they are very positive on this, because obviously they have realized that there has to be, because, I mean, for example, if you really take bad checks, right, that used to get reported with CRIB. I mean, it used to be 3. I think they were trying to tighten it by making it to the first one to get reported. But also, good thing is also now even bad checks, the banks have been told to waive off the return check charges, right? So which is, I mean, not a huge benefit, but I think that's something in the positive direction. So definitely there are very positive discussions in terms of CRIB, because a lot of I mean, even at the central bank level, they are not to the defaulters who have been defaulting, prior to COVID, throughout, and got a bad name. But especially with this crisis, even the genuine businesses who have got into difficulties, I mean, everybody who's discussing have been very positive. I don't think that, as Conrad is correct, the final thing has not come out, but I think definitely this, at least, until we get out of this time period, it will be fairly lenient in terms of CRIB reporting and getting somebody highlighted, and not making payments on time and all those things. Everybody's been supportive, so I think even though a formal thing may not have been come out yet, that will happen.
Right. Okay. So again, another question from the audience. Like now, if you take like tour operators, ticketing agencies, then also especially freelancers, Sharanyan, like people who had been getting businesses from overseas. Now, these people for next 6 months also, we don't see that they will basically get enough businesses, because travel will be mostly dull, and there won't be any uptake on that. Like now, for example, sort of like Find My Fare, right? How do we look at this sector, right? The people who are going to be affected more than 6 months. Now, this moratorium and everything is only planned for 6 months. Beyond that, what do we do?
Can I answer? I think Conrad and others can change the business model. My friend, it has happened. I mean, Conrad brought it up. Pick me. Yeah. I mean, there's 0 transactions for a while until they change it. Delivery of, so you need to relook at, because nobody's going to come and give you something on a door. I mean, it's not going to happen, right? Because everybody's affected, right? Not just a startup, even the big businesses are affected. So you need to rethink and look at different opportunity. If your opportunity currently is affected, that's why you have to be agile and move to something that because obviously nobody's going to support you for 6 months, or 1 year. It's not going to happen. I mean, let's face the reality. So if you are agile, if you are innovative, if you are progressive and creative in thinking, just change and look at different opportunity, because there are this COVID has brought in a lot of other opportunities. Even though some doors were closed, many other doors have been open. So if you can just shift to a technology, if you are a technology provider in terms of a startup, just use the same technology to address a different opportunity. I think you have to do that, because obviously if you just wait for 6 months until your business picks up, you're going to be dead. So being agile, I mean, obviously we feel startups are agile,
Yeah, Jeevan and Sharon. Yeah,
I agree with Channa on this one. I think there are some businesses you can't save. Probably a business with 4% GP, 3 to 4% GP, and then this happens. Travel got affected even before this, right? I mean, there were some signals last year as well, where travel is with 421, etc. So I think it's unfortunate, but there are some businesses, especially in tourism and retail, that probably need to really think their business models through.
Sharon, how do you basically address this now? Freelancer community, you also touched earlier also. Now, freelancer community is going to be highly affected on this because you see most of them were getting businesses from overseas. Other economies are going to crash. They're not going to get, right? So you said that you're basically trying to negotiate and give them some free months of work and they try to continue, right? But as a whole, how would the freelancers be affected on this?
Okay. So most of them, they were once upon a time they were as a freelancer. So which means they became an entrepreneur because of the experience that they gained as a freelancer. And comparing the corporate people mindset and entrepreneurs mindset is different, like I said before. And when the road is blocked, we don't return back. When there's a roadblock, we don't return back. And we don't change the journey as well. But we do, we find a way to pass it. We will reroute and go. So that's the mindset of entrepreneur, because whatever you say, they're not going to give up. Because they think the business as their kid, like a blot. This is how they think, comparing the corporate mindset and this. I mean, I'm really sorry, brutally honest. I mean, this is how the entrepreneur's mindset works. Whatever you wiped out from their finance level, they will blossom. Because that's the mindset of an entrepreneur. And that's the gut they are having it. So, in my opinion, for the entrepreneurs, what we need to do, as Channa said, we need to work as a community as well as we need to work as an individual. So what I'm doing right now, so I'm trying to create a separate group where educate them how they can tap, how they can reach untapped market through the LinkedIn, through the different social networks where they can live the power of LinkedIn, getting connected. So this is what I'm doing right now, and also most of the people, they are getting into it. Like I said before, there is always an opportunity when there's a block, when there's a situation, there's always a way to move forward. But answering your question, what are the opportunities available for the freelancers? Now, this is the trend for the remote jobs. So even the local company is also hiring. Day before I had a conference, I hosted a few local entrepreneurs as well as the foreign experts. So they also still hiring people who can work in a half payment. Like if you're willing to pay for 30,000 instead of 60,000, there are people they are willing to hire, like a consultant, financial consultant, maybe designers. So there are a lot of people they are willing to work at this moment instead of relying on the Fiverr. Most of the Fivers are dropped. Actually, I turned as an entrepreneur. Before that, 8 years back, I was a freelancer. So I know the pain and in and out. So even though nowadays, if you ask a freelancer who are working on freelancer.com or Fiverr, they will tell you the sales is dramatically dropped. Like 80%, 70% sales is dropped. So we think they are able to cater the thing that they already had it earlier, because the commitment is already created. Based on their income, the commitment is created. The entrepreneur's lifestyle, whatever the income they are having, they will always create a new platform to spend the money instead of saving. So, like I said before, the mindset and their lifestyle always impact and influence the people, the way of thinking and way of doing business. My suggestion for the freelancer can do, or maybe the entrepreneur, talk with your customer, give them huge discount. Otherwise, tell them that we are giving 2 months free, but ask them to refer more businesses for you instead of while you're giving free, but most of your staff are going to work anyway. If you're not doing a salary cut, or if you're not sustaining the staff, of course you have to pay back. So in order to pay back, you really need to, as a founder, it's your responsibility. End of the day, you have to pay them back. You have to pay back. So encourage all your employees to work with them in a constant basis. If you're delivering an update every weekend, ask them to contact the customer every 48 hours to make sure they're getting updated, getting the service delivered, or they're getting the best outcome rather than giving the earlier one. And also make sure, ask your customer and talk with the customer, how's the business, whether it's going up. If it is okay, tell them we are giving 1 month free, 1 month credit free. Ask them to refer more businesses. Is there any other business, if there are any local business they know that, ask them to refer it. And this is another opportunity. Apart from that, learn new skills. If possible, learn new skill. Because when there's a problem, there's always a solution. So I don't feel like this is a problem. This is a challenge. I mean, it's all about I feel like it's a challenge where I can testify myself, and all the entrepreneurs will think in the way that I'm thinking. This is the time that we need to think whether do we have the ability, because entrepreneurs, they love challenges. Do we have the real ability and the caliber to solve this challenge as a person that doing a business in a way that we want to do?
Kanishka,
yeah.
Can I add something? Now, for example, one example I wanted to give, for example, if you just take the garment industry, apparel industry, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I just read an article yesterday about Bangladesh.
Yeah.
50% they are going to lay off people. Most are women, because as happened is obviously the orders have dried. Yes. They have the orders that they have fulfilled, the payments are not coming.
Yeah.
For the orders that they were anticipating, they have placed orders with suppliers for hundreds of millions of dollars, and the suppliers are ready to sell the goods, but there are no orders.
Yeah.
So there are huge baggage with them, which startups don't have, right? Even with that, now they are rethinking. I mean, the garment industry, I mean, they're stitching masks now, because there is an opportunity to create masks and garments, right? So even the giants who are saddled with huge, investments, capital, tied up in so many areas, massive amount of staff working, they are reinventing to come out of this. So I think it's easier for a startup or an entrepreneur to change than a big company who's saddled with a lot of things tied down. So this is the time. If you do something, it's gone, change. I think it's easier for them to change than for a giant.
So
I just want to add something to this, because I see an opportunity for getting jobs online, right? I think everyone is, there are huge platforms for like machine learning, to teachers, to anything. You can get it online now because there's a whole bunch of crowdsourcing platforms available. And I think if you have a skill set, this is the best time for someone to go practice it, learn a new skill set. Those are things that people just, simple people can do today, right? If you really want to get, a degree in aeronautical engineering, just go to the MIT open courseware and start watching the videos, right? So I think this is a good time for people to learn new skill sets and also practice their skill sets on open platforms. And I think if there's some way that we can talk to the bandwidth providers and say, okay, is there a unique set of people, like, for example, freelancers that you spoke about, that will maybe need a bit of help in bringing the cost down of bandwidth, at least initially? Is there a way we can do that? That would be very interesting to do.
Right. So I wanted to move the discussion to a different direction. What is your advice, especially for startups and SMEs? How should they manage their finance? Right? Should we look at pay cuts? Is it a solution, or is it a must? Or should we look at probably Sharanin gave a couple of suggestions, but on your suggestions, Sharanin, it doesn't actually improve our cash flows. It's basically you're sustaining the customer, right? So what is your advice to startups and SMEs? How should they basically look at next probably 3 to 4 months or maybe up to 6 months? How should they manage their cash flows? So we can probably start with Jeevan.
Yeah, I think this has been discussed in the town halls that we've had one town hall pretty much every week or every other week with our startups. In Hatchin, we've opened it up to the community as well, so a whole bunch of other startups as well. One of the things that was discussed, obviously, was some suggestions for government and some suggestions for ourselves, right? One of the suggestions for ourselves was, is there a way that we can talk to our employees and say, okay, you can do cuts across the layers. So you can say, okay, look, management takes a larger cut, and you can go down and you can say for the people earning, you know, less than 50,000 rupees, you can take a smaller cut or a small percentage cut in their salaries. The other one was looking at time-based cuts. So if they are only being engaged maybe 3 days out of 5 from work from home, can we get them to take a cut on that? The other was talking to government and trying to get them to, for example, reduce, you know, at least for the next 6 months to a year, tell government, hey, you know, can we not pay the EPF, ETF, because that's probably more money going into the company in terms of cash flow, etc. And is there something that we can do around that? And we kind of, is it, sorry, Kanishka, just to ask your question, to read this question, is it only what the startup can do, or is it what we can ask the startup, or what the startups can ask from government as well?
What's your advice for the startups and SMEs?
Yeah, so I think that's one. Also, you know, we thought about, you know, is this a good time to get domain expertise, especially if corporates are now following staff, right? If they're firing staff with good domain expertise, is this the time to approach them and say, hey, I know you've always thought about working in a startup. Can you come into ours? Maybe we can't pay you what corporates pay you, but we can pay you know, a portion of that and give you something to do, which is going to be exciting, passionate, and you've got to really work on the passion part, and get them into startups and get them activated, I think is another good idea. And I think like those are things that we spoke to, and the one big one is obviously immediately talk to your banks and try and get that relief package. So that relief package, because cash flow is the biggest thing right now, right? So you need to make sure that you have enough cash flow to survive the next 6 months, or you're building new, and while you're pivoting or whatever it is, you have cash flow to do that. And I think the banks really need to come through on their promise of what they're saying they're going to deliver, or what the central bank has given them, and really transfer that to the startups. So I think if you do those, you know, few things, I think to look at your own cash flows, to make sure you're cutting out unnecessary stuff. Renegotiating with suppliers is a big one as well. Renegotiate with all your suppliers, and figure out if there's a better way that you can do it. Maybe go on success, right, rather than go on a fixed fee. Like, for example, that's always good to work with some of your you know, maybe providers of sales. Even you can go on success rather than providing them a retainer. Is there a way to do that? So there are things that entrepreneurs can do during these hard times, or you know, startups can do it during these hard times, which we're definitely telling our startups we're doing it ourselves. So we're living it as we speak.
You take turn on that, maybe on the SMEs.
Yeah, I think I would look at it from a different perspective, right? I think the simplest thing for somebody to do it cut salaries, and you know, that's an obvious thing. But I mean, something that we have been thinking through the last couple of weeks is that, you know, we run with a certain number of people, right? And suddenly COVID comes, we are working with half that people because others can't come. Some don't even have laptops to work remotely. So technically they are at home getting paid a salary, right? I mean, you know. But we are thinking, rather than laying them off, can't we get them to do something different and make some more money, right? So laying off will demotivate people. Even the people who are left will be demotivated. But what we are looking at is, hey, if we can run with a lower number of staff during this period and still provide, I mean, we are providing 24/7 service, you know, so, you know, a lot of people are working from home. But I think the fact of the matter is we really need to look at our business model and say, hey, do we cut, or do our people have different skills where we can, you know, go into different channels, do different things to make more money? We may not have, you know, we have just stuck to a model and looked at, okay, this is what we are going to do, and this is the staff that we need. But suddenly a situation, okay, what we have been doing, we can do with 50% of the staff. So one option is get rid of the 50%, or get that other 50% to do something different and, you know, boost up our bottom line or improve our cash flow. So I think my preference is for the latter option. Look at what are the different skills they have. Somebody who is doing something else, can they reinvent and do something which is going to bring more cash flow in? I'm not saying you can do a lot of things in the short term, but I'm looking at the long term, rewinding, restructuring your business model, right? And I think it is possible, it's doable, and improving your bottom line, actually everybody can contribute. Right? So reducing costs is only one way of improving your bottom line, but if you improving your cash flow and revenue line is another way, right? For example, I'm thinking, can 10 guys who are developing, can they be sales guys who is going to actually go and talk to customers and bring more service? So there are different ways we have to start thinking, because when you are pressured into a situation, you need to start thinking out of the box and say, hey, how do we do things differently? What do we need to do? Because obviously, as you started, it's the new norm. But the new norm doesn't have to be we lay off everybody, right? How do we get better use of the existing people? Obviously, people are there because of a skill set. Right? Otherwise they would not be there. So can those be skill set diverted into different areas and rethink the model and generate better cash flow? I think I would prefer that model. Obviously, if you are cash struck and you can't survive the next month, then you're in trouble. But I'm saying at least people who have the ability, this is the time to start thinking. For me, the preference is not to lay off people, but reuse them in a different way to make better use of better cash flow.
Yeah, thanks for that insight. So we all spoke about repivoting our business models to look at the new business opportunities. This is a new suggestion that you look at your staff strength to repivot them and get them to different, maybe to do different jobs in your organization, or maybe look at other opportunities. Conran, what's your take? Do we need to cut down salaries, or can we help them with the same pay?
No, I think cutting down the salaries and all that, I think that we should, as a leader, I think we should take it as the last resort, right? So that's something that we need to look at, because that means you should not look at the easy way outs in terms of you're running a business. So you need to look at how hard you can think and what are the actions that you can take in terms of, as Chana said, looking at your business. And of course, there are, I'm sure, in an organization, you may be able to find good lot of waste which you have not seen earlier, right? And if you really look at it today, I'm sure most of the organizations must be thinking now, why do you want to have so much of real estate and have people inside an organization when some of the work actually can be done from home, work from home, even in the businesses which have never imagined, right? I'm talking about the garment manufacturing girl, but there are certain other services, other business, other operations which you could have done. So there is a huge cost reductions that you could look at it if you then relook at your work and this time of the hour, and then see how you could do, how you could promote work from home. It was a mindset that which he had. I think if you look at, leave alone the technology sector, of course, we were ready to work from home. I think we have been practicing that for quite a long time, right? So we are used to it, and sometimes we call ourselves night animals in the technology field, right? But from the other sectors, other sectors and other businesses, they were not really was looking at having a work from home. So I think there are enough and more opportunities to reduce cost if you really relook at your work, right? And then, of course, if the worst case comes to worst scenario, I think you might have to do layoffs and all that. But I think that should be considered as the last resort, in my view. Right? I think I think there are so much of things which we can do now. In fact, there are some within our organization. They're talking about why didn't we look at it this? I think even though we looked at it, we have I would say, the excuse in you that we want to see the people working in your office. You like to see people, and that's true. But I think there are different management principles that you need to apply to manage the people who are working from home. It can be a huge cost saving for an organization if you really look at it. The cost of infrastructure, cost of even you do a lot of good things to the employees, because some employees have traveled 2 to 3 hours. Okay, so somebody's
mic is on.
Yeah.
Sharonian, your other line is on.
No, not at all. I only received one link. I clicked it over here. I'm not sure.
Okay, fine. So I think that's something that you need to look at in terms of the cost. There are a lot of cost savings that you could do. So probably, I mean, that's a way that even whether it's a startup or an existing business should look at it.
Right. Okay. So Channa, there is a question. I think even Jeevan, Conrad both can also support on this question. So now, because of this situation, the currencies are a bit vulnerable, and also the plastic cards are a bit vulnerable. So people are asking whether there is an opportunity where we could start off the digital currency, or we can launch a digital currency.
It's like this now. What is the difference between digital currency and digital payments?
Brenda, can you?
From a technology perspective, I don't think there is a difference. So I mean, just because you bring digital currency, it's not going to. I mean, I think it's going to create a different opportunity for just bringing digital currency, right? Because I mean, even digital payments, you know, it does the same purpose. So for me, digital currency did not really move because of certain issues, not because it's not technically capable or any other issues. It had certain fundamental issues with digital currency. Now, for example, the AML issue, the anti-money laundering issue, right? So there are like pyramid schemes. So because of there are certain fundamental issues that really has not taken off, right? So unless we address those issues, you know, it's not going to take off as it has been anticipated. But I think whether it's digital currency or digital payments, I don't really foresee a huge uptake for digital currency just because of this. But there are many ways to do digital business than digital currency. But unless we solve the problems with regard to digital currency, I think people will opt for other options. Conrad, I don't know what your take on by you.
Conrad, if you can also.
Yeah. So I think there is a huge. I don't know. I'm really from when you talk about the digital currency, I'm sure people are referring to things like the Bitcoin and all that platforms and the Bitcoin. I think as Stana correctly said, I mean there are so many areas. I don't know whether Bitcoin or digital currency as a currency, unless it is mainstream or a central bank does it, whether it will be a useful currency, because there are so many other weak points in that as well, not from a technology perspective. But the technology is a superb technology, what is there, but provided there is a correct use case for the technology which is behind the digital currency, right? So it's for a true digital economy, true digital drive of economy and the digitized assets. Yes, there is a use case, but as correctly Chana said, I think we need to first go through if we can move away from currency, the physical currency, and come up with a digital currency, just like what one of the countries who's trying to do by 2013, that is Israel, if I'm not mistaken, right? So I think they're trying to do that, basically to change into the digital currency, not as a digital currency, but digitize the whole process of the currency exchange. That will give us a huge value in terms of currently, if you look at the current indicators, I think it's quite a bigger percentage of money spent on currency management by central bank. So if you can move at least 50% of that to digital payments, I think you don't need a digital currency as we imagine, because it doesn't. At the end of the day, government is responsible for the currency, and I don't think that that will go away. Whether it's US or I'm sure US is also printing money, right, in an economic crisis. So I don't think that you can take it away. I mean, that's why that's a different economic discussion, I would say.
Yeah. So anyway, I think there has been a lot of initiatives on.
Some perspective on that, right? Now, in terms of to add to what Conrad said, the perspective of actual physical currency, cash notes, cash and coins, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a sort of a understood norm that to maintain and manage cash, it costs a country about 1.5% of GDP. Print, distribute, security, all that together, right? Compare that in Sri Lanka for entire education. Last year, I think we spent something like 2.9% of GDP for our entire education, free education, teacher salaries, everything together. So 1.5% of GDP is a huge cost. So I think for us, the first step is to move away from cash, whether it's digital currency or digital payments, right? I think the closer line is digital payments right now because everybody's for it, and also there are instruments for that.
Yeah.
So I think we need to make that fundamental shift away from cash. So if we make that shift away from cash, 20%, 30%, 50%, if you can get to 50%, that'll be great. I mean, I would say at least 20%, we are going to save, certain percentage of the bottom line of the economy just we are wasting on cash. So I think the way forward is definitely to move away from cash. But I think the shorter term, which is more widely visible, is into digital payments.
Right. Okay. So I think we had a good 1.5 hours discussion about finance, how we should manage finance, what we should basically expect from the banks. Also, end of the discussion went into a little bit of fintech, how fintechs could support and what is the future going to be. So with the interest of time, so can we have just about 30 seconds to 1 minute closing remark from everybody? So we can start from Jeevan, probably how we should basically come out of this situation, and what is your advice, the final advice for startups and SMEs?
Yeah, so I think, as I mentioned when we started, I think the opportunity is there. This is the time to really, and I think it's, this kind of 1 month has given us a lot of time to think about how we want to move things forward. So I really think it's a golden opportunity for us to think about what the strategy is going forward as a startup. And I think rethink our business models, think about what this new normal brings us in terms of opportunity, and basically move forward to capitalize on that model, right? And I think as entrepreneurs, you're going to think about different ways of financing, whether it's crowdfunding, whether it's there are different tools in the tool set that what I call entrepreneurial financing that you can do to structure your business and take it to the next step. I think we need to use as many tools in our toolbox as possible to just make sure that we survive the next 6 months to a year. And I think then if you're aligned on this digital transformation path, you should have smooth sailing from there on in.
Okay, thanks, Jeevan. Sharanya, what's your final words on this? Sharanya, you're muted. Sharanya, you're muted.
So I feel like so when there's a server crash that we have to reboot it. we barely need to reboot it. So I feel like this is a reboot. It's not a problem. It's like Jeevan said, it's an opportunity if you look at in the way that we need to focus. And when it comes to the salary cut, I want to add one point. So what we did in our company, instead of doing the management basis salary cut, so we promised to our people that we're going to, whatever the amount that we are reducing at the moment, we're going to pay you back after 9 months. When the problem is sorted, we're going to pay you back. So which means they are not going to feel like we are just removing a portion of the salary from their salary. So they will feel like they have a confidence. They will feel confident when there's a situation solved. Probably they will get back the amount that they have given right now. So that's a strategy that we have used it. And also we took all these decisions after talking with the people, because each and every startup and their culture and their lifestyle is different, like as I said earlier. So in our companies that we always focus on the people. So I used to get, if I want to do a major shift, I always get an advice from the people. So based on the advice only we made this situation, because end of the day, we are just a representative. They are the people always running the company. I mean, we have to accept this in a way as a leader. And my suggestion for especially for the entrepreneurs and freelancers, think this is an opportunity. It's an opportunity, and find a way. You need to find a way to redirect the problem as an opportunity where you can leverage the situation as a benefit for a longer period. Don't think like a 1 or 2 months. The problem is not going to solve. Even though if the curfew is lifted, we're going to face the same problem. So think in a longer period, like at least 9 to 12 months, you have to think and create a plan, or you have to restructure the financial plan and involve all your people as much as possible. You have to bring more brains in your decision making. And like I said before, the startup culture is different. And in our company, what we did, we allowed our people, few of our people, we allowed them to work with the partners, like the people or the company that we know, where they can get additional income. So say an example, if one of our employees is getting 30,000, if you're reducing 40%, probably they are going to have only 20,000. So they already have a commitment. So what we did, we allow them to work with any of the different companies with a restriction, and while they can earn a percentage, which means they can balance it. It's all about the understanding the people. So the way that they respect also we need to understand. So my suggestion for the entrepreneurs is try to understand your people and have a proper synchronization with them.
Right, thank you. Conrad, what's your last thoughts?
Okay, I think Milton Friedman has said, only in the crisis situation that you produce a real change, right? Yeah. So I think when the crisis occurs, the actions that to be taken will depend on the ideas that you are lying around. So I think for all of us, it's very important that reimagine ourselves, reimagine our businesses is the most important thing, and the human beings are the most important element of this. Right. So I think if we have the human beings, only anything will remain. So the final thought is reimagine ourselves and stay home, stay safe. That's the final thing from me.
Right. Channa, what's your final thing? You're muted. Channa, you're muted.
Yeah, I think the main thing is this has created a massive opportunity, right? To change ourselves, change our businesses for the better. So because we have been working according to a certain thinking pattern, which has not really been challenged and looked at or changed up to now. But now, again, as you said, it's a new norm. So it has given us an opportunity to rethink the way we are doing things. And also, if we are positive enough to look at this as an opportunity and change ourselves, I think we would be in a better footing. So this is the biggest and the best opportunity that all of us have to rethink this as an opportunity and say, okay, where can we go? Where should we go? Where is that opportunity, right? Think through that and find opportunities in what we do. I'm sure there are plenty of opportunities out there. This has created new opportunities which sometimes the big guys cannot grab. They are too big to change, they are too rigid to change, they cannot grab this. But the startups and the SME community is agile, they don't have the same baggage, they can change. So this is that big opportunity that is in your face. So I think if you can think carefully, look at the opportunities in the market and realign yourselves, I think this is a massive opportunity that has come up. That's my last.
Great. Okay, so thank you very much, the panelists. And I hope this was a very insightful 1.5 hours for our audience. So I also would like to thank Santan and his team for organizing this event. And yeah, wish you all the best. And panelists, if you can smile and wait for a group picture. Right, okay. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, everyone. Take care.